The story that I'm about to tell you took place a long time ago. Nevertheless, up until today, the story repeats itself, and it will continue to repeat itself again and again until humans finally understand one of life's greatest secrets. And this great secret, this magical key that also opens the path towards happiness and joy, is disinterestedness. Yes, absolute disinterestedness, which in fact is none other than absolute love. It is true that the action of disinterestedness is not for everyone. It is only for true heroes. During that period, the nature spirits were still very present amongst humans, and the Volamis, the powerful devas of the mountains, were masters of the vast regions. Fulin was lord of the valley, as was his ancestors, grandfather, and his father before him. Since time immemorial, he was a disciple of the goddess of the mountain. As usual, each morning, Fulin went to see his horses in the forest. He loved the horses because he knew they were truly the most faithful friends of man. This contact with these noble creatures did him good because Fulin had a lot of bitterness in his heart. It was true that Fulin gave a lot to the poor peasants of the valley whom, in exchange, were very grateful and respectful to him. In reality, at the bottom of his heart, he disdained the peasants whom he considered as inferiors. This morning was not like the others. Fulin prepared himself to make a long journey to the sacred forest, because the Deva of the mountain, who knew his thoughts better than Fulin himself, in a wonderful dream asked Fulin to go and meet her there. Of course, he thought, I don't do all those good deeds without the goal of obtaining something. That is understood. But I believe that nevertheless I merit a bit of respect on her part, and that the divinities, in their great generosity, could well think of me from time to time. Finally, he arrived at the golden edge of the forest and welcomed with pleasure the shade and freshness of the woods. When he came close to the river, Fulin, by the sounds it was making, rushing by the bed of rocks, guessed already before seeing the river that he could not cross it at that place. The sound of the river reminded him of his grandfather, who told him one day, when he was seated on the riverbank, Fulin, my little one, listen. Listen attentively to the music of your heart. It is a source, it is a stream, it is a river, a great river. When you will hear this music, you will know the level of love that flows within you. He continued along the river a long time before meeting up with two large trees. The torrents had been uprooted. Perhaps he could cross here. The melt-off of the recent snows and the rains of these last days had swollen the river in an unusual manner. From a young age, Foulon had been instructed that obstacles were in reality asperities that allowed us to elevate ourselves. He also knew that the more one met up with them, the more one had the possibility to reinforce oneself. One could not do otherwise. Alas, the current was too fast, and the river too cold, and too deep for Foulon to risk crossing it here. He had to resolve the melancholy that he felt by further descending the river, knowing full well that now he no longer had a choice. He was late, and he had to scale the wall of the Guardian rather than following the path that winded around the mountain, which was, unfortunately, much longer. He possessed the secret of success, which finds itself in persistence. But he wasn't at the end of his troubles. The most difficult was still to come. Foulon did not see the pride that he carried within himself. He thought, since 20 years I've distributed my fortune without counting. 20 long years, and never has the goddess said to me a single word of thanks or encouragement. At that time, everyone still knew that the mountains were the physical bodies of very elevated beings. For Foulon, they symbolize the matter which elevates itself towards heaven. The mountain is a place of meditation for those who know how to approach it. Foulon liked to withdraw within himself and try to vibrate in unison with the surrounding nature. He fell asleep and had an initiatic dream. He dreamt that the universal soul, the life which penetrates all things, spoke softly in his ear. The plants, it said, are by their generosity benefactors of humanity. Yes, without ever demanding anything, they nourish the entire earth. They enchant us with the softness of their fruits. They fill us with wonder, with their luxury and the beauty of their form and colors. They provide us generously curative remedies of all sorts. They purify the air that we breathe. And as they work with the law of sacrifice, which is the highest manifestation of love, they perfume the air with their abundant fragrance. Think about this, Foulon. Their only desire is to do good without expecting anything in return. After such a dream, Foulon was pensive. He heard the soft voice repeating incessantly, "Think about it, Foulon. Their only desire is to do good without waiting for anything in return." But the rest of the path that had to be crossed preoccupied him greatly. He first had to cross the high plateau of the immolated ones, and next begin to ascend the mountainside up until the foot of the guardian of the wall. The time pressed, and the terrain became more and more difficult. He finally arrived at the foot of the wall. It was well into the day, and Foulon feared he would not be able to make the summit before nightfall. Doubt introduced itself into man like a worm into an apple, and to limit the damages, Foulon immediately began the ascension. If not, he knew he would never meet the goddess. The climb deteriorated perilously. The ground broke apart under his feet, and with each step he risked to fall into the void. Foulon believed that the trials washed man and allowed the divinities to verify his courage. He climbed for a long time, and like the rocks under his feet, eternities frittered away at each instant. At the summit of the mountain, the earth touches the heavens, and in Foulon, the same thing happened. Each one of the cells of his body expressed ecstasy and gratitude and thankfulness, a true communion. Foulon took a few moments to rest. A great fatigue fell over him. Happily, the end of the route was in sight. In front of him was the hermit's cave, the entrance to the sacred forest. Foulon believed that the deva of the mountain would receive him as soon as he arrived, but the thick door of the cave was hermetically sealed. Up top, it was very cold, and Foulon had no choice but to make a fire to try and warm up. Foulon fought against sleep. He continued to hope that the diva would receive him before nightfall. The wind was blowing strongly, and it indicated to Foulon that he should change his thoughts. But although he had the habit of having a sensibility to the messages of the element, he remained deaf to the language of the sylphs that whispered their soft poetry to the leaves. Around him was beauty, splendor, and magnificence. Fulin finished by falling asleep. He dreamt that at the center of each star scintillated a magnificent temple of pure crystal and diamond. In the country where Fulin lived, there was a saying: "He who gets up early in the morning has 2 harvests, while he who gets up late loses half of a single harvest." Then the diva herself appeared. Smiling, she spoke to Fulin, saying, "Thank you for having come, my son, my beloved disciple. We are very proud of you. Your goodness and generosity and your compassion have resonated to the confines of the universe. And in a wonderful dream, we captured the echoes of your deeds. You appeared to us bathed in a wonderful golden light. You walked in the prairie accompanied by a multitude of spirits that asked only to serve you. Above you turned beings of beauties of the 7 rays. They inundated you with gifts and their indescribable love. Then you stopped, lifted your head towards heaven, and a blue ray descended to come and open the earth just in front of your feet. From this opening sprang up a myriad of sparks, small sparks that were miniature 5-point stars, sparks of stars. Is for you, Fulin, in gratitude for your goodness and devotion. Protect your secret, and in this manner you will conserve the maximum power of this present. Fulin ran straight ahead without really knowing where he was going. The gift of the deva weighed heavily in his arms. His excitement cut short his breath, and in an altered state of consciousness, a bit as if he were drunk, he frayed a new path to the river. The fresh air did him good. He found his wits and respectfully opened the present. His surprise was only equaled by his horror. He did not believe his eyes. And because he was not a very advanced disciple, he got angry and took the stone and threw it in the river. To do this to me! The deva has mocked me. Never again will I do good. I hate her. Fulin thus retired into the forest and fell into a great despair. and then fell asleep. The Deva came and visited him in his sleep. "So, Fulin, how did you like my gift?" In the stone was hidden the largest diamond in the world, Star Spark, a meteorite that came from a distant star. Fulin got up in a single leap and ran like a crazy man to the river. During the whole day with rage and frenzy, he searched the river. Despite the powerful current, the glacial water that made him suffer so much, and despite total exhaustion, Fulin looked for the stone in vain. Never again would he find it. It was no longer necessary. Fulin had possessed Starspark, the largest diamond on Earth, and he had lost it. But the gift, the true gift that the Deva had offered to him, he possessed in his inner being, and never would he lose it.